I arrived at the house almost an hour early, even though there wasn't much to prepare. The realtor had handed me the keys 3 days before, but this was the first evening it actually felt like mine. I unlocked the front door slowly, the way people do when they're trying to make a moment last longer. The place still smelled faintly like fresh paint and wood dust. The previous owners had moved out quickly, leaving the rooms empty and echoing. I carried in 2 grocery bags. Chips, soda, a cheap cake from the bakery, nothing fancy. Just enough for family to stand around the kitchen and say things like "This place has good light," or "You finally did it." I set everything on the counter and unfolded a few chairs in the living room. Then I waited. The driveway outside was quiet, but that wasn't unusual yet. My parents were usually late to things. My brother even later. I checked my phone. 6:05 p.m. The gathering was supposed to start at 6. I walked through the house while I waited. Turning on lights, opening a window, running my hand along the kitchen counter like I was testing if it was really there. This house had taken me 4 years of saving, late shifts, skipped vacations, careful budgeting that most people would have found boring. But tonight was supposed to be simple, just family standing in the living room saying congratulations. By 6:30 the driveway was still empty. I checked the family group chat. There were new messages. At first I didn't open them. I assumed someone was explaining why they were late. But then a photo appeared, my brother standing beside a bright red car, the kind that shines even in bad lighting. Everyone was around him, my parents, my aunt, 2 cousins, smiling. Someone had written, "Look what he finally bought." More photos followed. Different angles of the car. People leaning on the hood. My mother wrote, "So proud of him." No one mentioned the house. I stared at the messages for a while before setting the phone down. The silence in the house felt bigger than it had earlier. At 6:50, my cousin texted privately, "Hey, sorry we couldn't make it tonight. Your brother just picked up the car and everyone wanted to see it." I typed, "No worries." Then erased it. Then typed it again. Across the room, the folding chairs sat empty. I walked into the kitchen and turned on another light. Then another in the hallway. The house slowly brightened, room by room. I wasn't sure why I was doing it. Maybe I just wanted proof that something had happened today. At 7:12 my phone rang. My mother. I answered. Her voice sounded normal. "Come, hi honey," she said. "Listen, we need to talk about the house." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "What about it?" "Well, your father and I were discussing it with your uncle." "That wasn't a good sign. You bought it by yourself, right?" "Yes." There was a pause. "We're just a little concerned," she said carefully. "A mortgage is a big responsibility. What if something happens with your job?" I looked around the kitchen. The cabinets were older but sturdy. The window above the sink faced a small patch of yard where a tree leaned slightly toward the fence. "I've been planning it for years," I said. "Yes, but planning and reality are different," she replied. "You should have talked to us first." I thought about that, about all the times I had tried to talk about work, promotions, savings. Most of those conversations had ended the same way, my brother interrupting with something new he'd bought. A new phone, a motorcycle. Now a car. "Is everyone still there?" I asked. "At the dealership cafe," she said. "Your brother's letting people sit inside the car." I could hear laughter in the background. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she said, more gently, "We're just worried you might have taken on too much." I looked around the house again. The floors were solid hardwood. The mortgage payment was well within what I'd budgeted. The down payment had come from savings I'd built slowly and carefully. Nothing about it had been reckless. "It's handled," I said. "What do you mean?" "The mortgage is approved. The payments are manageable. I didn't borrow money from anyone." Another pause. "So you're sure?"
Yes.
I waited for the word congratulations. It didn't come. "Well," she said finally, "we'll come see it another day." "That's fine. We just want you to be careful." "I will." The conversation ended quietly. I set the phone down on the counter. Outside, the streetlights were beginning to turn on. The house felt quiet again. But not in the same way it had earlier. Before, the quiet had felt like waiting. Now it felt settled. I walked into the living room and sat on the floor, leaning back against the wall. The lights were on in every room now. The empty space didn't feel disappointing anymore. Just unfinished. For the first time that evening, I started thinking about who might actually enjoy being here. Friends from work. Neighbors I hadn't met yet. People who might walk through the door and say something simple like, "This is a good place." I sat there for a long time, looking around the room. And eventually the silence of the house stopped feeling lonely. It just felt like the beginning of something.